Today marks 1 year since the death of one of the most prominent survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. Members of Virginia Giuffre's family and other survivors of Epstein gathered in Washington, D.C. to remember her, celebrate her life, and share their messages of hope.
Today, we honored her not just by remembering how she left this world, but by remembering how she lived in it. In the stories we tell, in the love we share, in the strength we carry forward, she is still with us. Jenna, you are missed, you are loved, and you will never be reduced to just one chapter of your life.
I want to bring in one of the speakers at that vigil, Lisa Phillips, an Epstein survivor, advocate, and host of the From Now On podcast. I'm glad you're here, Lisa. It was a big day. It's a year since Virginia's death by suicide. So what are your feelings around today?
Thank you so much for having me, Alex. It's been so wonderful today sharing this memorial with Virginia's family. Their speeches were beautiful. My survivor sisters that are here, we are all here in the courage and bravery of Virginia for coming forward. And, you know, she's just been our guiding light through the past 9 months, speaking out in Capitol Hill and pushing for the Transparency Act. So this just means so much to us to be here.
And in fact, to your point, I mean, she was one of the very first to speak out publicly about Jeffrey Epstein and all the abuse that he inflicted. So tell a little bit more about what Virginia meant to you and to others in the survivor community.
Well, we all have different stories, but they're all entangled in this web of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's orbit. When I first heard Virginia speak out in 2019, I didn't want to come forward with my personal story yet. It took me a couple years to get there. But what I wanted to do was support her story. And the individuals that she was speaking about, I knew that I had seen, you know, her on the island, or I thought I had. So I reached out to one of the other survivor sisters who introduced me to Virginia. And I had a few phone conversations with her when she was in Australia and I was in Los Angeles. And we had a bond, because I always wanted to support what she was saying because I believed her and I knew that what she was saying was true. And we share another abuser that I've never come forward about. And so I just wanted to be there to support her. That's really how it all started. It wasn't until several years later where I started speaking out about my story.
Wow. What influence then she had for you and strength that she helped give you, I'm sure. Is that what you talked about in your message today?
No. I didn't get into all that. I was only speaking about the courage that she had to come forward and how all of us survivor sisters and many survivors that are watching feel empowered by her story and by her bravery. And when you have someone like that, a lot of times it takes the first person to come forward. And because she did that is the reason why so many others have come forward.
You know, one thing I saw, Lisa Rubin was covering this vigil, and she came on and she showed us the back of a card that seemed to be dispersed among the crowd. You know how we typically will say rest in peace and mean it? I love that on the back of that card it says rest in power. And I think you're very much echoing that sentiment, and that's what a lot of people are saying today about Virginia. Let me look ahead and talk with you about King Charles, who, as you know, is coming to the U.S. for a state visit on Monday. Reportedly will not meet with Epstein survivors following a request to do so from Congressman Ro Khanna and Virginia's brother, whom we just heard from. The King's brother, Andrew, was, of course, accused of sexually abusing Virginia. So what's your reaction to that?
Yes, I understand that King Charles cannot meet with the survivors. I do understand this. But what King Charles can do in the UK is to support a public inquiry. So I do know I've met with MP Edward Davey recently in the UK last week with the support of Ivana Bocik from the Labour Party in Ireland. And we had a meeting with the MPs, and I do know they are pushing for a public inquiry in the United Kingdom. And I do believe King Charles can support a public inquiry, and that the Prime Minister, he has the ability to push one just like that. He has the power to do so. And in doing a public inquiry, it's the next step where we can take a look at the people involved in the UK and hopefully hold them accountable.
Can I ask you quickly about your response to word that there's a talk, at least, of a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, potentially?
Well, that's the whole purpose of the public inquiry, because if Ghislaine Maxwell's pardoned, then she's a free woman. And she hasn't yet had any criminal charges in the UK. And without a public inquiry that has to happen timely, she'll be a free woman. And that's not okay for the survivors, because she also was one of the main people who was abusing young women and teenagers. And so this is something that's really important to us in the UK, is to also hold her accountable for her actions and do a thorough investigation and hopefully be held for criminal charges in the United Kingdom.
Lisa Phillips, you always have my admiration and appreciation for coming on the show. Thank you so much for your time.